The warning that fell on deaf ears. Commander Vexlar of the Corvath Dominion stood motionless in the observation deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His silver-scaled hands rested against the transparent viewing port as he watched the dying space station tumble through the void. The structure had been caught in a meteor storm 3 cycles ago. Now it vented atmosphere from dozens of breaches. Its distress beacon pulsed weakly into the darkness. The station belonged to a species the Dominion had never encountered before. They called themselves humans. Initial scans showed primitive technology, basic life support systems, and no defensive capabilities worth mentioning. The Corvath had cataloged them as a minor spacefaring race, barely worth noticing in the grand scope of the galaxy. Vexlar had served the Dominion for 40 solar cycles. He had witnessed the incorporation of 17 different species into the Empire. Some joined peacefully, others resisted and were crushed. The pattern never changed. Advanced technology always defeated primitive determination. Superior numbers always overcame inferior forces. The Corvath Dominion expanded because it was simply better than everyone else. His second officer, a young warrior named Kelth, approached from behind. "Commander, our scans show the station will suffer complete structural failure within 2 hours. Should we salvage what we can and move on? The humans aboard will not survive." Vexlar nodded slowly. "How many life signs remain?" 43, sir. They have gathered in the central hub where some atmosphere still holds. They possess no escape pods. Their communication systems are damaged. They are trapped. Then we will observe, Vexlar said quietly. I want to see how they face death. It will tell us much about this species. What happened next would change everything Vexlar thought he knew about warfare, about courage, and about the nature of strength itself. The first sign came 30 minutes later. A small human vessel appeared from behind a nearby moon. It was a cargo hauler, nothing more, unarmed, slow, and built for transporting supplies between planetary stations. The ship had no business approaching a disaster zone. "Sir, the human vessel is moving toward the damaged station," Kelth reported, confusion evident in his voice. "They are attempting to dock." Vexlar leaned forward. "Are they attempting rescue with that fragile craft?" "It appears so, Commander, but the docking ports are all destroyed. There is no way to create a safe seal." "Then they will die alongside the others. Foolish." But the human ship did not attempt a normal docking procedure. Instead, it maneuvered close to one of the larger hull breaches. Vexlar watched as figures in bulky spacesuits emerged from the cargo vessel. They carried equipment, welding tools, and what appeared to be inflatable tunnel sections. "What are they doing?" Kelth asked. "Building a bridge," Vexlar replied, genuine surprise in his voice. "They're constructing an emergency passage between the ships." The human crew worked with frantic efficiency. They sealed one end of the inflatable tunnel to their cargo ship's airlock. Then they extended it across open space to the breach in the station. Explosive bolts anchored it to the damaged hull. Chemical sealant sprayed from portable units created an airtight connection. The entire operation took less than 20 minutes. "Impossible," Kelth breathed. "That cannot be structurally sound. It will tear apart." But it held. Through the Eternal Conquest's advanced sensors, Vexlar watched as the 43 trapped humans began moving through the makeshift tunnel. They moved slowly, carefully, supporting the injured and carrying the weak. Not a single person was left behind. The last person to cross was a human female. She wore a uniform that designated her as the station commander. She did not leave until every other soul had reached safety. Only when the cargo ship confirmed all survivors were aboard did she enter the tunnel herself. Then the station's core finally failed. The entire structure imploded in a cascade of twisting metal and explosive decompression. Debris scattered in all directions. Several large pieces hurtled toward the human cargo ship. "They will be destroyed," Kelth stated flatly. But the human pilot did not panic. The cargo ship fired its maneuvering thrusters in a pattern Vexlar had never seen before. The vessel rotated on 3 axes simultaneously, sliding through the debris field like a dancer moving through falling rain. Every piece of wreckage missed by mere meters. The ship's hull remained intact.
When they finally cleared the danger zone, the cargo vessel turned and accelerated away at maximum thrust. Slower than any Corvath ship? Yes, but alive. All 43 survivors safe. Vexlar stood in silence for a long moment. Kelth, he finally said, retrieve all data from this encounter. Every scan, every recording. I need to study these humans more carefully. Sir, they are primitives. Surely this was simply luck. Perhaps, Vexlar replied, but primitives who refuse to abandon their own, who improvise solutions under impossible pressure, and who execute dangerous maneuvers with precision. That is not luck, Kelth. That is something else entirely. Over the following weeks, Vexlar devoted himself to learning everything available about humanity. The Dominion's intelligence networks had gathered surprisingly little information. Humans occupied only one star system. Their homeworld, Earth, supported approximately 8 billion individuals. They had established small colonies on 3 planets and 7 moons within their solar system. Their technology lagged behind the Dominion by at least 2 centuries. But as Vexlar dug deeper, he found patterns that disturbed him. Human history was soaked in blood. They had fought each other for thousands of years. Wars that killed millions, weapons that poisoned entire regions, conflicts that raged for decades without resolution. But humanity survived. More than survived. They thrived. He discovered accounts of human soldiers fighting to the last individual rather than surrender. He found records of cities that burned themselves rather than accept occupation. He read about humans who walked into certain death to save strangers. Again and again, the pattern repeated. When faced with extinction, humans did not calculate odds or seek rational compromise. They simply refused to die quietly. The encounter that truly alarmed him came 3 months later. A Corvath survey ship had entered human space to map potential resources. A single human patrol craft intercepted it. The patrol craft was tiny, armed with only basic missiles and kinetic weapons. The Corvath vessel possessed shields, advanced sensors, and firepower that should have vaporized the human ship instantly. The human captain sent a simple message. You have entered our territory without permission. Leave now or be destroyed. The Corvath captain laughed. He powered weapons and prepared to eliminate the arrogant primitive. The human ship fired first. Its missiles were primitive, yes, but they struck with unexpected precision. One penetrated a shield emitter. Another damaged the Corvath ship's main sensor array. Before the Corvath could respond effectively, the human craft launched a third missile. This one did not carry explosives. It carried the human pilot. He had ejected in an escape pod, modified with additional thrusters, and aimed himself directly at the Corvath ship's bridge. The pod struck the reinforced viewing port at tremendous velocity. The impact cracked the crystalline structure. Emergency systems engaged, sealing that section, but not before the Corvath captain saw something that haunted his reports. The human pilot survived the impact. Through the cracked port, the Corvath captain saw him in his damaged spacesuit, still fighting. He was using a cutting torch, trying to burn through the viewing port to reach the bridge. He kept working until his oxygen ran out. Even then, his final gesture was to activate his pod's self-destruct, causing additional damage to the Corvath vessel. The survey ship fled. It returned to Dominion space with a hull full of scars and a crew shaken by what they had witnessed. The report described the human pilot as insane, suicidal, and absolutely terrifying in his refusal to accept defeat. Vexlar read that report 7 times. Then he made his decision. He requested an immediate audience with the Dominion Council. His message was marked urgent. The response came within days. The council would hear him. The council chamber of the Corvath Dominion occupied the heart of the capital world. 12 members sat in elevated positions around a circular platform. Each represented a different branch of Dominion power: military, economic, scientific.
The warning that fell on deaf ears. Commander Vexlar of the Corvath Dominion stood motionless in the observation deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His silver-scaled hands rested against the transparent viewing port as he watched the dying space station tumble through the void. The structure had been caught in a meteor storm 3 cycles ago. Now it vented atmosphere from dozens of breaches. Its distress beacon pulsed weakly into the darkness. The station belonged to a species the Dominion had never encountered before. They called themselves humans. Initial scans showed primitive technology, basic life support systems, and no defensive capabilities worth mentioning. The Corvath had cataloged them as a minor spacefaring race, barely worth noticing in the grand scope of the galaxy. Vexlar had served the Dominion for 40 solar cycles. He had witnessed the incorporation of 17 different species into the Empire. Some joined peacefully, others resisted and were crushed. The pattern never changed. Advanced technology always defeated primitive determination. Superior numbers always overcame inferior forces. The Corvath Dominion expanded because it was simply better than everyone else. His second officer, a young warrior named Kelth, approached from behind. "Commander, our scans show the station will suffer complete structural failure within 2 hours. Should we salvage what we can?"
High Counselor Dravex, the military representative, leaned forward. "Commander Vexlar, your record speaks to your competence. Therefore, I will assume you have evidence for this extraordinary claim. Please explain how a species confined to a single star system, possessing technology inferior to our own by 2 centuries, could possibly threaten the Corvath Dominion." Vexlar activated the holographic display. Images from the space station rescue appeared in the air above the platform. "I present 3 encounters with human forces. Each demonstrates capabilities that our models do not account for." The council watched the recordings. They saw the improvised rescue tunnel. They saw the cargo ship's evasive maneuvers. They saw the patrol craft's attack on the survey ship. When the presentations ended, Counselor Dravex spoke again. "I see a lucky escape, adequate piloting, and 1 suicidal fanatic. This proves nothing, Commander. Every species has occasional heroes. It does not make them dangerous to us." Vexlar kept his voice calm. "With respect, High Counselor, you are seeing individual incidents. I am seeing a pattern. Humans do not surrender. They do not calculate acceptable losses. When threatened, they become exponentially more dangerous. Their entire history demonstrates this. They have fought each other for millennia, developing tactics and strategies that assume prolonged conflict against equal or superior forces." Counselor Yarvith, who oversaw colonial expansion, made a dismissive gesture. "Their history of fighting each other is precisely why they are weak, Commander. A divided species cannot stand against us. We will approach them with overwhelming force. They will recognize the futility of resistance and submit. This is how it has always worked." "No," Vexlar said firmly. "That is exactly wrong. Humans are not divided by war. They are forged by it. Every conflict in their past has made them harder, more adaptable, more willing to sacrifice. And when faced with an external threat, they unite. Every account I have studied shows this pattern. Internal conflicts cease instantly when they face outsiders." The council members exchanged glances. Several appeared annoyed. One, Counselor Bremick, spoke with barely concealed contempt. "Commander, you are asking us to fear primitives because they rescued their own people, and one of them acted crazy? The Dominion controls 42 star systems. We command 3,000 warships. We have incorporated species far more advanced than these humans. Why should we hesitate now?" "Because," Vexlar said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "humans will burn their own worlds before they let us take them. They will weaponize everything they possess. They will turn every ship, every station, every colony into a weapon aimed at us. And they will never, ever fighting. Not until either we are destroyed or they are extinct." "Ridiculous," Dravex snapped. "You have allowed fear to cloud your judgment, Commander. The humans have resources we need. Their system's location is strategically valuable, and they have refused to acknowledge Dominion authority in the border regions.
We cannot allow such disrespect to go unanswered." Other council members nodded agreement. The decision had already been made, Vexlar realized. They had called him here as a formality, not to actually listen to his warnings. "I formally request," Vexlar said carefully, "that the council delay any action against humanity until we can conduct more thorough intelligence gathering. Give me 6 months to truly understand what we face." "Denied," Dravik said immediately. "The invasion fleet will depart in 2 weeks. We will take the human colonies first, demonstrating our power. Earth itself will surrender rather than watch its children burn." Vexlar felt something cold settle in his chest. "You are making a catastrophic mistake." "No, Commander," Counselor Yarvith said softly. "You are. By spreading fear and doubt, you are violating your oath to the Dominion. Therefore, you are hereby removed from command pending investigation. You will be confined to quarters until this matter is resolved." Guards entered from side chambers. They approached Vexlar with restraints. He did not resist. As they secured his wrists, he looked up at the 12 council members. "I have served the Dominion faithfully for 40 years. I have never questioned an order. I have never failed in my duty. But you are wrong about the humans. When your fleet engages them, remember this moment. Remember that I tried to warn you. Remember that your arrogance killed thousands of our warriors." "Take him away," Dravix ordered. The guards led Vexlar from the council chamber. Behind him, he heard the council members already discussing deployment schedules and resource allocation. They spoke with absolute confidence. The invasion would be simple, quick, and profitable. Vexlar knew better. He had seen what humans were capable of when they refused to give up. He had studied their history, their psychology, their fundamental nature. The Corvath were about to learn a terrible lesson. In his quarters, Vexlar watched through a viewport as the invasion fleet assembled. 300 warships, the largest force the Dominion had ever gathered. Their hulls gleamed with fresh armor. Their weapons hummed with power. Officers shouted orders. Crews loaded supplies. Everyone moved with the confidence of inevitable victory. The fleet departed exactly on schedule. Vexlar watched them disappear into faster-than-light travel, heading toward human space. His scales turned dark with grief. He had tried. He had warned them. But the Dominion, in its pride, would not listen. They saw primitive technology and assumed primitive thinking. They saw limited numbers and assumed easy victory. They did not understand what Vexlar had learned. Humans were not dangerous because of what they had. They were dangerous because of what they were willing to do with it. The war was about to begin, and the Corvath Dominion had no idea what was coming. The price of arrogance. Admiral Thrain stood on the command deck of the Dominion flagship Inexorable Will, surveying the tactical displays with satisfaction. 300 warships surrounded his vessel in perfect formation. Each ship represented the pinnacle of Corvath engineering. Advanced shields, plasma weaponry, faster-than-light drives that could cross star systems in days. This fleet could conquer entire civilizations, and it was aimed at a species that still used chemical rockets. The fleet had crossed into human territory 2 days ago. Initial reconnaissance confirmed everything the Council had predicted. Human defenses were laughable. A few dozen patrol craft scattered across their colonies. Orbital stations with outdated sensors. No military installations worth the name. The humans had focused their resources on exploration and colonization. A fatal mistake. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, "we are approaching the first human colony, New Horizon, they call it. Population approximately 50,000 spread across 3 settlements on the planet's surface and 2 orbital stations." Thrain nodded. "Standard incorporation protocol. Broadcast surrender terms. Give them 1 hour to respond. If they refuse,
We destroy one settlement as demonstration. They will comply after that. The message went out across all frequencies. It was simple and direct. The Corvath Dominion claimed this system. All human forces must disarm. All colonial governments must submit to Dominion authority. Resistance would be met with overwhelming force. They had 1 hour. 58 minutes later, the response came. A human appeared on the communication screen. He was older, perhaps 60 Earth years, with gray hair and weathered features. He wore a simple civilian jacket with a patch identifying him as Colony Director Marcus Webb. This is Director Webb of New Horizon Colony. I have received your ultimatum. Here is our response. The human paused. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Go to hell. The transmission ended. Thrain felt his neck scales rise in irritation. Foolish. He turned to his weapons officer. Target Settlement 3. Population centers only. Precision strike. Make it quick. The inexorable will's main plasma cannons charged, targeting solutions locked. The officer's finger moved toward the firing control. Admiral, multiple contacts, the sensor officer suddenly shouted. 27 human vessels emerging from the asteroid belt. They are moving to intercept. Thrain leaned forward, studying the display. 27 ships against 300. The humans were even more foolish than he thought. What classes are those vessels? Sir, they appear to be mining ships, cargo haulers, and civilian transports. I am detecting no military-grade weapons. Some have industrial cutting lasers and demolition charges, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Then they are delivering themselves to us. Maintain course. Prepare to disable those vessels. We will capture them intact.
The mining ship rammed directly into the destroyer's shield emitter array. The drills, designed to tear through solid rock, punched through the shields and buried themselves in the destroyer's hull. Then, the mining ship's reactor overloaded. The explosion was not large by military standards, but it happened inside the destroyer's shield perimeter. Plasma fire erupted through internal corridors. Secondary explosions rippled across the destroyer's engineering section. The warship listed to one side, shields failing, engines offline. One destroyer disabled. By a mining ship. All vessels, combat alert, Thrain shouted. Treat every human craft as hostile. Fire at will. But the human ships were already among them. A cargo hauler carrying industrial chemicals deliberately breached its own containment tanks, spraying corrosive liquid across a Corvath cruiser's sensor arrays. Blinded, the cruiser collided with a frigate. Both ships tumbled out of formation. Another human vessel, a passenger transport, launched all its escape pods simultaneously. Each pod had been filled with explosives and set to detonate on proximity. Corvath point defense systems destroyed most of them, but 3 got through. They exploded against a battlecruiser's main guns, warping the barrel assemblies beyond use. "What is happening?" Thrain demanded. "How are these primitives doing this?" His tactical officer stared at the displays in shock. "Sir, they are using civilian equipment as weapons. Mining lasers cutting through our hull plating, construction explosives damaging our systems. They are ramming us with ships that cost less than our ammunition expenditure. Destroy them all! Now!" The Dominion fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, particle beams. The space around New Horizon turned into a storm of weapons fire. Human ships died. They had no shields, minimal armor, and no chance of survival against concentrated military firepower. But before each ship died, it took something with it. A cargo bay full of fuel tanks became a makeshift bomb. A passenger liner aimed itself at a command bridge. A construction vessel used its grappling cables to bind 2 Corvath ships together before self-destructing between them. The human ships were not trying to win. They were trying to make the Dominion pay for every meter of space, for every dead colonist, for every moment of occupation. And they were succeeding. Admiral, we have lost 18 ships. 23 more are damaged and require immediate repair. The fleet is in disarray. Thrain could not believe what he was hearing. 18 ships against civilian craft. Impossible! Reform the line, maintain firing patterns. Do not let them close to ramming distance. But maintaining distance was exactly what the humans wanted. While the Dominion fleet focused on the suicide ships, the colony's orbital stations opened fire with weapons Thrain had dismissed as obsolete. Old-fashioned kinetic railguns that fired solid metal slugs, ancient missile systems with chemical propellants, primitive laser arrays designed for mining operations. None of it should have been effective. Korvath shields could deflect plasma, point defense could intercept missiles, armor could withstand laser fire. But the sheer volume was overwhelming. Hundreds of projectiles, dozens of missiles, continuous laser bombardment. The shields held, yes, but they consumed power at rates the Dominion engineers had not anticipated. Ships had to divert energy from weapons to maintain defensive screens. And, while the fleet was distracted, something else was happening on the planet's surface. Sir, we are detecting massive energy signatures from all 3 settlements. The humans are evacuating. Let them run, Thrain snarled. We will hunt them down later. No, sir. They are not fleeing. They are destroying everything. The tactical display showed thermal blooms across New Horizon. The humans were burning their own settlements. Every building, every warehouse, every piece of infrastructure that might be useful to an occupying force. They were denying the Dominion anything of value. Director Webb appeared on screen again. His face was illuminated by fires burning behind him. You came here thinking we would surrender our homes, our freedom, our lives. You were wrong. We are human. We do not kneel to invaders. Every structure you see burning, we did that. Every ship you destroyed, those were volunteers, men and women who chose to die rather than let you take our world without cost. Thrain saw other humans moving in the background, civilians carrying children, elderly citizens helping the injured. They were evacuating into underground shelters while the surface burned. You will find no resources here, Admiral, no workers to enslave, no technology to steal, just ash and defiance. And we will do this on every planet you attack. We will make you pay for every planet until your empire drowns in the blood of its warriors. The transmission ended. Thrain stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he turned to his officers. Status report. 23 ships destroyed, 41 damaged. We have casualties in the thousands. The human forces are completely eliminated, but the colony itself is unsalvageable. Everything of value has been destroyed. Move to the next target. We will break them eventually. But the next colony was the same, and the one after that. At each location, human civilians transformed into desperate warriors. They used construction equipment as weapons. They turned transport ships into bombs. They burned everything rather than let the Dominion have it. And they sent messages, constant messages on every frequency. We are human. We do not surrender. Come and take what you can, but we will make you bleed for it. After 2 weeks of fighting, Admiral Thrain sat alone in his quarters, reviewing casualty reports. 87 ships destroyed or too damaged to continue. 15,000 Korvath warriors dead. 3 colonies reduced to ash. And humans' main fleet had not even engaged yet. The reports from forward scouts were even worse. Earth itself was mobilizing. Every factory converting to weapons production. Every civilian training for combat. Every ship, every station, every orbital platform being armed with whatever humanity could manufacture or improvise. Thrain remembered Commander Vexlar's warning. Humans will burn their own worlds before we let them take them. At the time, It had seemed like exaggeration. Now he understood. It was simple truth. A priority message arrived from the Dominion Council. Train activated it, expecting orders to press forward, to show strength, to complete the mission. Instead, he saw something he had never witnessed before. The council members looked shaken. Admiral Thrain, High Counselor Dravix began, his voice tight. You are ordered to withdraw all forces from human space immediately. Return to Dominion territory. We are reconsidering our approach to this species. Train felt relief flood through him. Understood, High Counselor. Initiating immediate withdrawal. The transmission ended. Train did not waste time. He issued the retreat order. The remaining fleet turned away from Earth and began the journey home. As they departed, Train received one final message from humanity. It was broadcast from Earth itself, from someone identified as Secretary General Chen of the United Earth Government. People of the Dominion, you came to our world seeking easy conquest. You found only death and ash. Let this be your lesson. Humanity may be young, we may be primitive by your standards, but we are not weak. We are not prey. We are survivors. We have endured ice ages and plagues, wars and natural disasters, extinction events, and our worst impulses. We have always endured. The image shifted to show damaged Korvath ships fleeing human space. You are leaving now because you learned what we are willing to do to protect our freedom. Remember this moment. Remember the price you paid. And if you are wise, you will never return. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, human space burned with the fires of resistance. 3 weeks later, Commander Vexlar was released from confinement. The council summoned him immediately. When he entered the council chamber, he found it very different from his last visit. The 12 members sat in their elevated positions, but there was no arrogance now, only grim recognition. High Counselor Dravix spoke first. Commander Vexlar, you were correct. We were wrong. The humans are not like other species. We underestimated their willingness to sacrifice. We did not understand their nature. Vexlar remained silent. We have lost nearly 1/3 of our invasion fleet. Thousands of our warriors are dead, and we gained nothing. The human colonies are destroyed, yes, but by their own hands. We hold no territory. We have captured no resources. We have only demonstrated to the entire galaxy that the Korvath Dominion can be hurt. What are your orders? Vexlar asked quietly.
Commander Vexlar, Trivex said finally, you are reinstated to full rank in command. Additionally, you are appointed as Chief Military Advisor to the Council. Your first task is to establish formal relations with humanity's military forces. Make them understand we seek peace. Vexlar accepted the appointment. Over the following months, he worked closely with human representatives. He found them willing to negotiate, but firm in their demands. Human space would be inviolate. Any future Dominion vessels entering their territory would be destroyed without warning, and humanity would continue to arm itself, to prepare, to ensure no other species made the mistake the Korvath had. The treaty was signed on neutral ground. Vexlar represented the Dominion. Secretary General Chen represented Earth. They met in a small conference room, just the two of them. Your people thought well, Vexlar said honestly. I have never seen such determination. Chen nodded. We did what we had to do. We protected our own. That is all we ever wanted. The Dominion will honor this treaty. I give you my word. Good, Chen replied. Because if you do not, we will finish what you started, and next time we will not stop at our borders. Vexlar believed her. He had seen what humans were capable of when defending their homes. He did not want to imagine what they could do on the attack. The two leaders signed the treaty. The war was over. Humanity had won, not through superior weapons or numbers, but through sheer refusal to be conquered. Vexlar returned to Dominion space and resumed his duties. He trained the next generation of Korvath officers, and to each one he told the same story.
The story of how an empire fell victim to its own arrogance. The story of how primitives defeated an advanced civilization through will alone. The story of humanity. Years later, Vexlar stood again at the viewport of his flagship. But this time he was not watching an invasion fleet, he was observing a joint training exercise. Corvath and human ships flying together, practicing defensive maneuvers against hypothetical threats. The galaxy had changed. Word had spread about humanity's resistance. Other species looked at Earth with new respect. Some sought alliances. Others gave humanity a wide berth. But none made the mistake of underestimating them. Vexlar's scales shifted to a color that indicated contentment. He had been right to warn the Council. He had been right about humanity's nature. And he was glad that wisdom, though costly, had eventually prevailed over arrogance. In the darkness of space, human and Corvath vessels moved in formation, not as conquerors and conquered, but as cautious neighbors who understood the price of conflict. The war was brief but devastating. The peace that followed was built on mutual respect and the hard lessons learned on both sides. Vexlar would never forget those lessons. Neither would the Corvath Dominion. And across the galaxy, one truth became clear to all who heard the story. Humanity, when threatened, would never surrender. They would burn their own worlds, sacrifice everything, and fight to the last individual before accepting subjugation. They were not the strongest species, nor the most advanced, but they were perhaps the most dangerous because they refused to accept defeat. The Dominion had learned this truth at terrible cost. Other civilizations, hearing the tale, made sure to learn it without paying the same price. And humanity, for its part, continued to reach for the stars, not as conquerors but as explorers, not seeking dominion over others, but defending what was theirs with absolute determination. Commander Vexlar had tried to warn his leaders. They had refused to listen. The price of that arrogance was written in the wreckage of ships, the ashes of colonies, and the graves of thousands of warriors who died learning a lesson their commanders should have heeded. Never underestimate humanity. Never assume that primitive means weak. And never ever mistake their desire for peace as inability to wage devastating war. These were the lessons of the war. These were the truths that would shape galactic politics for generations to come. And it all began with one commander's warning that fell on deaf ears, until the price of ignoring it became too terrible to bear.